Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another video. Hope you're doing well. This is going to be a review and demonstration of a delay pedal, the TC Electronic Alter Ego X4. This is a delay pedal that I've actually owned and used for quite some time now. It's been, a number of months, possibly even up to a year. And I thought, now that I've kind of spent a lot of time with it, I've used it in a live context, I've used it in recording, I've used it just kind of jamming here in my home studio, and I thought I had a pretty good feel for what's going on and wanted to give you a little bit of a review. The clip that you just listened to is recorded here in my basement, and I used all the delay parts were recorded using this box. So just to give you a little bit of a sound sample, there are a lot of other demos out there that run through each of the individual algorithms, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus a little bit more on kind of user experience and kind of provide some of my own just personal thoughts, how it's been, what it's been like for me to own and use this device. Also, I've done a lot of research and investigating on kind of what other people have felt, some of the reviews you can find on different forums or websites, and try to give you a little bit of a feeling for that as well. Okay, I'm going to start off talking with things that I really like about this device. First thing I want to talk about is tone quality. It's probably the most important thing. Is how does it sound? And I think overall it sounds really good. You know, it says on the label it's a vintage echo, and so the focus is really on vintage style sounds. And I think that for me at least, that is something that really appeals to me. Now, not all of the sounds on the rotary switch are going to be winners. There are some that I don't really love or personally drawn to. But if you like vintage style delays that have a lot of character, you're going to be able to find a good handful of these that are going to be successful for you. And that's one of the things that I really like about it is a lot of these delay models and the presets have a lot of character to them. And so that's definitely one of the big strengths of this unit. I've never owned a vintage style tape delay or a real, Benson Echo Rec or a Space Echo or anything like that, so I don't have any direct comparison, but I do think there is a good degree of authenticity to these sounds. Would it replace all the nuance and depth of something like that? Probably not. But does it get you in the ballpark and give you that same sort of feeling? They're very creative type sounds. They're very atmospheric. They're very inspiring. A lot of, again, character is the word that I keep coming back to. It's because the delays, they sound really good, and they definitely provide that type of a feeling. The next thing that I really like about this pedal is you've got these 3 foot switches here. It is brain dead simple to get a nice variety of tones and to have them easily accessible here right at your feet. Typically how I set it up is on foot switch A, I will set up probably more of a digital delay or a clearer sounding. I like the 2290 with mod, or maybe the Echo Rec or the Copycat, or I might even use a tone print, and then I'll set up with a dotted eighth and a quarter note for some more kind of rhythmic type delays, and this does that very, very nicely. Then for setting B, I will usually run a quarter note delay, and I like the DM2, Boss DM2, which is a pure Bucket Brigade analog delay emulation. This is excellent on this model. It really provides that darker, I've heard Andy Timmons refer to it as a halo, where you just kind of have this space around every note that you play, but it's not so in your face and percussive. It's more atmospheric and washing almost underneath your sound. It provides a lot of warmth and texture to your notes without being so obtrusive and in the way in terms of EQ. And I really like that sound on this unit. And then for number C, I typically have something a little bit bigger and a little bit more kind of intense. I like the Space Echo a lot. I also like the Deluxe Memory Man or the Echo Rec for something a little bit stronger and more intense. I also have at times, we'll use this as kind of a slapback echo, so using one of the tube echoes or the analog, just as it works great for a slap echo. Also, kind of a neat little trick that I will sometimes use is on a tighter pedal board, if maybe I'm just running a couple of overdrives, I can actually use this as a modulation. If you go to the TR organ amp model, and actually if you turn the repeats all the way off, and then you use the delay level to control the mix, and it really turns it into a modulation effect at that point. You're not getting any repeats, but the effect is being mixed in with your dry signal, and it gives kind of a very interesting and nice modulation effect. So kind of a cool little thing here. Again, getting a lot of mileage out of these 3 switches. External tap tempo is a must for me. I also like that it has, in terms of inputs and outputs, really, really thorough. You've got stereo in, stereo out, expression pedal, MIDI capable, all on the top. I love top mounted jacks, and overall it just is a very really, really nice, a lot of great I/O there to handle anything that you could need. The next thing I want to mention is how I think this unit really stacks up nicely in terms of price for performance. I actually got this sale on a blowout at Pro Guitar Shop for like 150 bucks, and I've seen that happen every once in a while, seasonally or whatnot. And personally, I think for $150 you will not find a better, more feature-filled delay on the market. So in terms of the competition at that level, I think this thing is an absolute slam dunk home run. And so the price for performance is really high. If that's something that matters to you, you need to make every dollar count on your pedal board, I think this is a real winner. Next thing I want to mention is true bypass and analog dry-through. This pedal is excellent in terms of getting that dry signal through. There's no tone suck. TC is very straightforward about that. But they also give you some nice options. You can switch it to a buffered bypass mode, which will allow you to use trails, and that's something that is really, really handy if you're into that type of thing. And actually, the buffer in this is very good. I typically leave it in true bypass because it just is perfectly clear presentation of my tone all the way through, and I don't even have to worry about it. But it's something that should be given and taken for granted for, and this unit, you don't even think about it because it is very excellent in that area. And then the last thing I want to mention is that overall I think this unit is just very, very simple to use. It's one of the great strengths is it really doesn't take a lot of, you don't have to read the manual, you don't have to spend a lot of time looking into how these different features work. Everything is very, very straightforward and easy to use. You've got time, a really simple subdivision switch, feedback, delay level, and just as a very, very effective, simple to use delay. And so if you're somebody who gets intimidated by some of those bigger box delays, I think this is going to be a great choice. All right, now I also want to talk a little bit about some of the negatives or some of the things that I find that other units do better, or just kind of some things that I maybe personally didn't prefer. Again, this is all personal preference, so it's entirely possible that you may not agree or you may not have that as a problem. It may not be important to you, so take that with a grain of salt. First thing I want to mention is the converse of that last Pro that I mentioned is how simple it is. Because it is so simple, that also means that it is lacking some depth. Now, some other units kind of stride the line. This unit is very much simple. Now, the depth is really, really limited because when you're using these preset models, which is really the reason why you buy it, is to get those character of those delays, you're really limited in terms of time, feedback, delay level. That's it. There's no tone control to shape the EQ of the repeats. Actually, what I really would love is a tone control for both the low end and the high end on my repeats, to be able to really dial in how it sits. If you want to shave some low end, that means your repeats are going to be really percussive. And if you want to do that dotted eighth thing, it works great for that. But if you want to dial back some high end on an analog delay to get you that where it sits back in the mix, having control over both the high and low end is really, really useful. Also, there's no control for modulation. With a lot of these models, they rely heavily on modulation, and if you don't care for where the stock modulation setting is, you're kind of shucks out of luck. I know there are a number of models, like some of the Echo Rec, the first Echo Rec, and just some of these other ones where I really would like to have some control over the speed or the depth or the level of the modulation mixed with the repeat, and you just don't have that, so you're really kind of shucks out of luck in terms of tweaking or customizing the presets of the delay. Now, the unit really is capable of generating some deep and more tweakable tones, but you really aren't able to do that with the stock and delay engines. You do that with the 4, tone print slots. Now, there is quite a bit of depth there. You can choose from any of the TC Electronic tone prints. There are a number of them that are very, very good, and that is an excellent way to go. Also, TC has an editor. You can hook this up to your computer and really dive in deep and tweak a lot of those tones, which again is really great, and I've used that quite a lot to tweak the sound that I'm looking for and to really achieve the sound that I'm looking for. However, what I really wish that it would do is allow you to do that with these stock engines. I would love to be able to take the DM2 and fine-tune the EQ just a little bit more, or maybe take the Space Echo and tweak the tone of the repeats or the modulation. All these little, if it just had the ability to bring all those features together. I guess I look at this whole depth versus complexity thing is kind of a tough spot, because if you go one way or the other, you're going to lose people on either side. It's a tough to straddle the line. And this unit is certainly more on the simple side, which means that it struggles a little bit on the depth side. However, I think that it was so close to pulling it off. If it just maybe had one more knob, or would allow you to customize these engines with a tone print and turn it into a custom tone print, it would have been so close to being just really amazing and just being a complete 10 out of 10 and really stepping up to compete with some of the elite level big box delays. So this is a con, but I do want to caveat and say you still can get some depth, just not quite in the way that I personally was wishing and hoping that it would accomplish. The next thing that I would count as a con of this is the way that it implements tap tempo. I personally wish that it had a global tap tempo feature. What happens when you create a sound and you save it, you press and hold and saves, then the tempo that you're set at gets baked into that preset. And then let's say you switch to B and you're playing your song, you tap tempo in with the drummer, and then you want to move over to A, maybe for the bridge. Well, then you'll go to A and you got to tap the tempo in again. Whatever tempo you're at with B doesn't transfer. It doesn't have that global tempo option. Just something that I personally would use a lot and wish that it had. Next up, we need to talk about the enclosure. I don't know if you guys can really tell, but this is quite a large enclosure. Now, to give you a little bit of context, this is a K-Line Pure Sky, just a typical standard size stomp box. You can see this is about a quarter of the size of this unit. It's very, very large. And it takes up a lot of room on a pedal board. So if you are a space hog or you want to build one of those miniaturized boards, this certainly is going to, it's going to require a little bit more space. There's a lot of dead space on the unit as well. And so I guess I just kind of feel like it's an overly large box. If you compare it to something like the DD20 or the Source Audio Nemesis, those delays are very compact, but they still give you quite a bit of functionality. You're just sacrificing these on-demand presets. It's kind of like a DL4 really, but with those units you still have that kind of access. Like the Nemesis, you have 4 presets that you can cycle through. Well, with this you have 3, but it's that much bigger of a box. So just something to be aware of if you are somebody who likes a smaller pedal board. Then also I want to talk a little about the looper in this box. I personally don't love how the looper was implemented. Now, I'm not talking about tone or features or functionality. It's a great looper. It does everything that a looper would need to do, but I just don't love how it is a looper and a delay and how you jump back and forth between those two things. So what I mean is when you switch into looper mode, what happens is whatever delay setting you have active with the knobs, that is what you hear, and then you can loop with that. However, if you switch back into delay mode, your loop quits and you can't select maybe your preset or use tap tempo and dance back and forth between those two units. That's something that I really wish you could do. I wish that you could kind of start your loop and then go back to the delay mode and play with your core sounds that you've worked so hard to dial in just right, and then go back to the looper, maybe add some more. I just kind of wish that it was more interactive, whereas really with this unit, it kind of just works as one or the other. You can either use it as a delay or as a looper. I don't love how it works as a looper and as a delay at the same time. The last thing I want to comment on is, this is not something I've experienced personally. My unit has been perfectly robust, and I've never had any reliability issues. I have heard reports that sometimes the switches can be a little bit faulty, and that's not even a problem. I mean, foot switches are foot switches. It's more dependent on how you use it, how hard you stomp on it, how frequently you do it. But the main deal that I've heard is that the way that they've manufactured these switches, they're really not replaceable. And for me, that's kind of a, why would you do that? I don't understand why you would create some sort of very specific selective technology when you have a lot of third-party foot switches available on the market. I wish that I had the security of knowing that if one of these foot switches dies, I could easily replace it. However, not the case. I'm a DIY guy. I like to fix my own stuff, and I don't like that I can't do that with this unit. All right, well, that about wraps up all my thoughts on the TC Electronic Alter Ego X4 delay. Overall, I really like this unit. I think it is an excellent delay. The bang for your buck is extremely high. I think it is a complete no-brainer if you need a great delay at 150 bucks. So many things that I love about it. And I guess I would just say that, I mean, it's almost a situation where if it just did a couple things a little bit differently, it could be like elite, you know, really competing with things like the Strymon timeline or the Eventide time factor or the Eventide H9. I mean, really close to going shoulder to shoulder with those delays. However, it falls a little bit short from hanging with that crowd. Instead, it's a little bit more niche. If you're somebody who loves more vintage styled sounds and you love having access to some of these more quirky, very character-filled type delays, and if you like a more simplistic approach, I think it's really, really good. If you want to get some more depth, you certainly can with the tone prints, but you got to sacrifice a little bit because you can't use these onboard engines. Anyways, I'm going to stop harping. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Love to hear from you, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.